Hey guys, Ian from Badass Rocketry here, and today we're going to take a look at the Mach 1 Badass Multibay BT60, which is a mouthful, I know. Watch the whole video, go to the end, because I'm going to talk about an upgrade package that Badass is going to offer with this bay. But before we do that, let's check out the build. There's a lot of components in this kit, so I'm just going to list out the categories for this particular build. First, you need the 7-inch coupler that comes with your Mach 1 kit. Then there is the charge well hardware, eye bolts, and threaded rods with all associated hardware and bits. All that hangs onto pre-drilled stepped bulkheads. Then there are standoffs for the altimeter of your choosing, and a screw switch with the associated hardware. That goes onto the altimeter sled. To round it out, we have some rivets, a 9-volt battery connector, and extra wires. Lastly, some putties used for sealing up your charge wires. The only thing you need to provide is the battery and your altimeter. To build this, you're going to need a few tools as well. I highly recommend a precision screwdriver kit with some nut drivers in addition to your Phillips and flathead bits. Some wrenches are needed to tighten the larger nuts, and for the very small items, I recommend small tweezers. The wire cutters and stripping tools are optional if you decide to use them for the wiring. I recommend starting with the bulkheads and doing the charge wells first. This is the trickiest part of the build, but take your time and go slow. There is no need to rush this. As you can see, the 2M hardware is quite small. I first took the screw and placed it on my magnetic screwdriver. Then I added the washer and lock washer in that order. It may seem backwards not to have the lock washers between the screw head and the regular washer, but it was required here. I used my tweezers to grab the items since they are so small. Then I placed the screw in the charge well and put that into the smallest hole of the bulkhead. Then I added a washer and a nut on the other side and cinched it down. Do this in a clean workspace and over a table. If you drop an item, it'll be much easier to see. After that, move on to the eye bolt. This is a fairly straightforward process, but make sure the eye bolts are not in line with the holes for the threaded rods. Also, be sure to make everything really tight. That's because this is where your recovery harness is going to connect to the bay. The eye bolt is also very small, proportionate to the size of the rocket, and I think that looks really good. If you need to replace any part here, this is an M4 sized eye bolt. The last thing to do with these bulkheads are the threaded rods. Again, this is a straightforward process, but really cinch everything down tight and make sure it is locked in place. The hardware here is US number 8, so if you need to replace anything or add any additional items such as other nuts or washers, it's a US number 8. Also, unlike the charge wells and eye bolts, this is only going to be done on one of the bulkheads, not both. The first thing you're going to do is add the standoffs for the altimeter you are going to use. Refer to this legend and determine where you'll need to place the hardware. If you use the Quantum, there's nothing for you to do as the M3 inserts are already placed. I went with a Stratologger configuration for this bay. Add the 440 standoffs in the correct locations and tighten them down with the provided nuts. For the Stratologger, you want to make sure the nuts on the bottom are parallel to where the switch is going to go, as the tolerance is very tight. If you are using the Raven 2 or 3 or the Quark, you'll need the M2 standoffs. You can screw them into the provided holes. I like to add a little Loctite or even thin CA to make them as solid as possible, but it is not required. Additionally, you can just press them in with a soldering iron. The last thing to do is add the switch. This is straightforward. First, place the switch into the right location. If you are using the Stratologger, you'll have to double check that the standoff nuts are parallel to the switch. You might have to press it into place, but don't worry, nothing's going to break, and the switch will work just fine. Then put the switch guide on top of that and screw it in. You can Loctite or CA on these two screws for a rock solid hold if you desire. After that is done, wire your altimeter and secure everything down with zip ties. The notches on the side of the sled are meant to be where zip ties go, as to not interfere with the coupler. Put the whole sled into your coupler and tighten it down. You are done with the assembly. This bay has no charge terminal. Instead, the match will come out of the hole in the bay, and once the charge is set up, to cover the hole, just dab it with a tiny bit of putty. That will protect your bay from gases. The last thing provided are 3 small rivets to keep everything together. There you have it, the Mach 1 Badass Altimeter bay. It's probably the best bay on the market.
All right, I hope that was straightforward, and the fact is we designed this to be as straightforward as possible. We wanted this to be an easy bay that you just take off the nuts here, the 2 grommets, and you have access to the bay. You don't have to worry about taking a bunch of other components off and losing that and being worried about where that's all going to be when you're out in the field. Just take off the two nuts, have access to the bay, and you're set. What I like about this bay is it holds 6 different altimeters. That's really powerful because you have things like a quantum, which has lots of reporting capabilities that are built into it that can now fit inside of your BT60 kit. And then you also have your Raven altimeter. And the Raven altimeter is unique that it has 4 different channels, which means that you can now fly staged as well as air start and cluster rockets with your BT60 size altimeter and airframe. I'm actually designing a 2-stage BT60 rocket. I'm probably going to fulfill it through the Mach 1 custom shop. And I'm getting anywhere from 3,000 to 4,000 feet minimum up to 18,000+ feet on a 2-stage rocket from a BT60. So that's really impressive performance. And that's all staying within my L2 certification. So you can also get impressive performance staying within your L1 certification as well. So go get the bay, use it for your BT60 rockets. It's available from Mach 1 Rocketry right now. This is the Mach 1 Badass Multibay BT60. Okay, so what comes in this upgrade package that Badass Rocketry is going to offer? Well, first you're going to have your charge terminals. These charge terminals don't come with the original kit because the fact is the kit doesn't require them. What the kit has instead is you take your leads for your match and you simply route them through the bay onto your altimeter, and then you cover it up with some provided putty that you get with the bay. What I'm saying is you can do away with that, and instead you can have a charge terminal, and that charge terminal is connected to your altimeter, and then you can take your match and then you can connect to the charge terminal, more like a classic AV bay, if you will. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to offer you some of these caps. These caps are akin to what you'd get for your Aerotech reloads. You know, those red caps that you put your gunpowder in and then you put your gunpowder into the reload. It's the same concept, is that you put your match in here, you put your gunpowder into the cap for your charge, and then you just slide this on there and keep everything secure. It's a bit easier than using the tape, in my opinion, and you're going to get 10 of these with your particular purchase. You might need to put a little bit of that tack right here where the wire comes out, because the wire is going to leave just a tiny little gap for some grains of your gunpowder to come out, and if you don't like that, it's just an easy tack to fix that. The other thing we're going to offer you is in order to put this on there, we're going to offer you the ability to have a drill guide. So you put this drill guide under the bulkhead and you're going to drill right into that hole, and that hole is going to let you know precisely where to place this particular charge terminal so it doesn't get in the way of the rest of the rocket and the airframe. And then we're also going to offer 2 more things. Those things are going to be, first is going to be like this 3D printed part right here. It's really small. What this does is it helps you with your 2M hardware for the charge well. For those of you that have a little bit less dexterity and you don't want to have to fiddle with all those small components and balancing them on top of the screwdriver, this right here will help you a lot in doing that. Basically, you just load everything up on the screw. The screw is going to fit in here somewhat tight, and then you just slide that into the charge well. You put the bulkhead on, and then you can put the other hardware on the other end of that, and then you can pull this off. So it's there to help you out with your charge wells and putting them together. And finally, the last thing is a drill guide. So this is going to be a drill guide that you can use for your vent holes. This is going to be a drill guide that you can use for the rivets that come with it. And then you can see the little notches on there. This is going to be a place for you to tell where center is on your rocket airframe. So all that's going to be available from badassrocketry.com. The very, very last thing we're going to offer is also some zip ties just to make it easy for you guys. So with the zip ties and the charge well covers, you'll have enough for 5 flights. You can always come back to badassrocketry.com to pick up more of these charge well covers if you like them. So go to Badass Rocketry, pick that up after you go to Mach 1 and you get the BT60 Multibay. Thanks a lot, guys. And remember, Badass Rocketry starts with the build.